As you may know, I have an English degree. Not an unusually impressive English degree, but I have it all the same. My facility with words and language was always my strongest suit growing up, and I love finding ways to express myself. In particular, I have a somewhat romantic ideal to someday be able to articulate my thoughts with the same beauty and poetry you will find in old Civil War letters. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I highly recommend the Ken Burns Civil War documentary for its readings of news and correspondence during that time. The textual artistry that used to be employed in basic communication is a humbling example of just how far we've fallen as a society in our interactions with one another. At least, in my opinion. But what does any of that have to do with today's video? Why would I bother bringing up the utility and value of words and communication? Golly, I don't know. Yes, we return once again to our friends at the National Association of Independent Schools, or NAIS. And what do we have on the docket for today? Critical consciousness. Okay, I'll bite. What is critical consciousness? And I'm not going to bother looking up the term because I'm here to be educated. So, lay it on me.
I want all of my students to develop critical consciousness.
Yes, but what is critical consciousness?
And what I mean by that is I love to have them think deeply, think in sort of structural, sort of meta ways about their experiences, things that they engage with, the institutions that they're connected to in their community, including their own schools, to sort of understand like how do these things operate in a broader sense, so that they can use this understanding to strategically both navigate those institutions, but also become active agents in their own lives to be able to stand up for justice or make the kinds of changes that they want to see in their institutions and their communities.
Critical consciousness is about thinking in structural, meta ways about your experiences and the institutions you interact with to understand how those things operate in a broader sense in order to strategically navigate those institutions in order to become active agents to stand up for justice and make changes you want to see in your communities. So, you're teaching your students to become social activists. Got it.
There are a lot of things that schools can do to help foster critical consciousness in their students. For one, I think you start with the schools themselves. Students can, look at the school curriculum, right?
Right?
The school curriculum. Well, should they be looking at and examining your curriculum of teaching critical consciousness, which seemingly places you, the educator, in the role of activist organizer? Should they be questioning whether that amounts to an education or an indoctrination?
You can have critical analyses of the kinds of things that are being taught in any school, whether it's the kinds of textbooks they're using, even to the kinds of pedagogy that teachers are using, and really ask questions about, okay, so whose voices are represented in this curriculum? Why is that the case? And how could things be changed to make this a kind of curriculum that could reflect sort of the diversity and sort of the reality of folks' experiences in this country?
You encourage your students to audit schools for signs of racism. Got it.
So, a lot of schools, a lot of curriculum gloss over issues of like institutionalized racism and discrimination or colonization. That's one place where students can engage and ask these really critical questions and be thinking about like, what is it that I'm learning and why am I learning this and how's it impacting how I understand the world? And then how can we change that so that we can be learning sort of the truth about things? And that's just one space.
If schools are not showcasing or emphasizing materials based on your preferred palette of skin colors, then schools are promoting lies. Got it.
Schools can visit like disciplinary policies. Are things like ethnic studies be included in mathematics and science instruction?
Are ethnic studies being brought up in math and science instruction? Okay, well, outside of perhaps a general understanding of the historical development of math and science, What relevance does ethnicity have on the 2 plus 2 equals 4 equation? Or the boiling point of water? Or the laws of thermodynamics?
I usually bring up math because there's usually the biggest resistance. People are like, oh, math is objective. It's just like numbers. And you're like, no, 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 no.
So, math is not objective? It's not just about numbers. Do tell.
There are actually a wide range of cultural worldviews and constructions of reality, and that gets really expressed through mathematics in different ways. And so different worldviews actually develop different kinds of mathematics, right?
Right?
Different cultures and worldviews have indeed contributed to our collective understanding of mathematics. But if a new method or theory is discovered, developed, and tested, it isn't a culturally specific interpretation of reality. If it works because it is reality, absent any cultural filters. 2 plus 2 equals 4 in any language. Well, except in 1984.
But really, you can take something like mathematics and go, okay, then how do we do sort of real world math, right?
Right?
Let's look at class inequality in capitalism, or housing, or disparities in sentencing, right?
Right?
I mean, there's all these things we can do that are connected to like real world issues around inequality and injustice, and like incorporating the mathematics.
Real world math. So, practical mathematics? What does using mathematics to assess income inequality have to do with ethnic studies? Housing, capitalism, class inequality? Are we teaching mathematics here? Or economics? Are you confusing the two?
Same thing for science, right?
Right?
People are like, oh, science is just science. Like, no, no, no. We can do some real racial justice work in science, right?
Right?
Some real racial justice work. I thought you were teaching critical consciousness, but your actual focus, and passion, dare I say, is using math and science to achieve racial justice. Justice predicated on skin color. Got it.
For instance, how do we indigenize science? How do we understand, the way that indigenous folks understood the world scientifically, right?
Right?
And so these worldviews had what does science mean from these other perspectives?
I don't know. What value is there in stone, bronze, and Iron Age understandings of science today? Whether indigenous or Dark Ages. You tell me how useful it is, and then tell me that never in the whole of our recorded history that we've ever examined such things, thus making you some kind of true innovator.
We could do environmental racism as a great science topic.
Environmental racism is a great science topic. Got it.
I mean, there's so much we can do to incorporate issues of justice and racial justice into various subject areas. All this towards building, for my mind, more activist students, because I want them to be thinking about how they understand the world, how they engage in the world, and how they ultimately take control of their own lives and act in the world.
So your role is to indoctrinate students into your sociological worldview of ethnic mathematics, indigenous science, and environmental racism in order that they become activists to bring justice to the world from your perspective. And you are a professor at a university where students and families pay small to moderate fortunes for a quality education. Got it.
You all are free of those constraints, and so you have the power to make these changes in your practices, in your classroom, in your curriculum, if you just decide to do it.
Yes. If left unchecked, people in roles of education can easily turn towards the hellish pathway of teaching students what to think rather than how to think. They only need to decide to do it. Got it.
And so if folks want to make a commitment to like racial justice or combating white supremacy and independent school education, then you all just got to decide to do it, start building the resources and like make it happen. And folks have the power to do that. And I think that's really important.
Critical consciousness. What does it mean? Well, unlike normal consciousness, it is critical. It is more refined, more aware. It is the consciousness of knowing of and seeking out the hidden evils of the world: systemic racism, environmental racism, white supremacy, and capitalism. They're always there, but you have to be critically conscious to see them. And once you have ascended to this higher plane of awareness, then you, and you alone, will possess the insight and the power to change the world as activists. Change it into the version of reality that you have been told it needs to become. Yes, we all want to be like our speaker: enlightened, passionate, pure in thought and in motivation. To dare to be anything else would be uncritical and complicit. And you don't want to be dumb and racist, do you? As always, thank you for watching.